Rambler number 10 for Saturday, April 21st, 1750. The title of this essay is 4 Billets with Their Answers, Remarks on Masquerades. The essay opens with a little Latin, which includes a translation. For trifling sports, I quitted grave affairs. The number of correspondence which increases every day upon me shows that my paper is at least distinguished from the common productions of the press. It is no less a proof of eminence to have many enemies than many friends, and I look upon every letter, whether it contains encomiums or reproaches, as an equal attestation of rising credit. The only pain which I can feel from my correspondence is the fear of disgusting those whose letters I shall neglect, and therefore I take this opportunity of reminding them that in disapproving their attempts, whenever it may happen, I only return the treatment which I have often received. Besides, many particular motives influence a writer, known only to himself or his private friends, and it may be justly concluded that not all letters which are postponed are rejected, nor all that are rejected critically condemned. Having thus eased my heart of the only apprehension that sat heavy on it, I can please myself with the candor of Benevolus, who encourages me to proceed, without sinking under the anger of Thurtella, who quarrels with me for being old and ugly, and for wanting both activity of body and sprightliness of mind, feeds her monkey with my lucubrations, and refuses any reconciliation till I have appeared in vindication of masquerades. That she may not, however, imagine me without support, and left to rest wholly upon my own fortitude, I shall now publish some letters which I have received from men as well dressed and as handsome as her favorite, and others from ladies whom I sincerely believe as young, as rich, as gay, as pretty, as fashionable, and as often toasted and treated as herself. Here's a quoted letter. A set of candid readers send their respects to the Rambler, and acknowledge his merit in so well beginning a work that may be of public benefit. But superior as his genius is to the impertinences of a trifling age, they cannot help a wish that he would condescend to the weakness of minds softened by perpetual amusements, and now and then throw in, like his predecessors, some papers of a gay and humorous turn. Too fair a field now lies open, and too plentiful a harvest of follies. Let the cheerful Thalia put in her sickle, and singing at her work, deck her hair with red and blue. Another letter. A lady sends her compliments to the Rambler, and desires to know by what other name she may direct to him. What are his set of friends, his amusements? What his way of thinking with regard to the living world and its ways? In short, whether he is a person now alive and in town. If he be, she will do herself the honor to write to him pretty often, and hopes from time to time to be the better for his advice and animadversions. For his animadversions on her neighbors at least. But if he is a mere essayist, and troubles not himself with the manners of the age, she is sorry to tell him that even the genius and correctness of an Addison will not secure him from neglect. Johnson resumes. No man is so much abstracted from common life as not to feel a particular pleasure from the regard of the female world. The candid writers of the first billet will not be offended that my haste to satisfy a lady has hurried their address too soon out of my mind, and that I refer them for a reply to some future paper, in order to tell this curious inquirer after my other name. The answer of a philosopher to a man who, meeting him in the street, desired to see what he carried under his cloak. I carry it there, says he, that you may not see it. But though she is never to know my name, she may often see my face, for I am of her opinion that a diurnal writer ought to view the world, and that he who neglects his contemporaries may be, with justice, neglected by them. Another letter. Billet. Lady Racket sends compliments to the Rambler, and lets him know she shall have cards at her house every Sunday, the remainder of the season, where he will be sure of meeting all the good company in town. By this means she hopes to see his paper interspersed with living characters. She longs to see the torch of truth produced at an assembly, and to admire the charming luster it will throw on the jewels, complexions, and behavior of every dear creature there. Johnson resumes. It is a rule with me to receive every offer with the same civility as it is made, and therefore, though Lady Racket may have had some reason to guess that I seldom frequent card tables on Sundays, I shall not insist upon an exception which may to her appear of so little force. My business has been to view, as opportunity was offered, every place in which mankind was to be seen. But at card tables, however brilliant, I have always thought my visit lost, for I could know nothing of the company but their clothes and their faces. I saw their looks clouded at the beginning of every game with an uniform solicitude, now and then in its progress varied with a short triumph, at one time wrinkled with cunning, at another deadened with despondency, or by accident flushed with rage at the skillful, or unlucky play of a partner. From such assemblies, in whatever humor I happened to enter them, I was quickly forced to retire. They were too trifling for me when I was grave, and too dull when I was cheerful. Yet I cannot but value myself upon this token of regard from the lady who is not afraid to stand before the torch of truth. Let her not, however, consult her curiosity more than her prudence, but reflect a moment on the fate of Semele, who might have lived the favorite of Jupiter, if she could have been content without his thunder. It is dangerous for mortal beauty or terrestrial virtue to be examined by too strong a light. The torch of truth shows much that we cannot, and all that we would not see. In a face dimpled with smiles, it is often discovered malevolence and envy, and detected under jewels and brocade the frightful forms of poverty and distress. A fine hand of cards have changed before it into 1,000 specters of sickness, misery, and vexation, and immense sums of money, while the winner counted them with transport, have at first glimpse of this unwelcome luster vanished from before him. If her ladyship therefore designs to continue her assembly, I would advise her to shun such dangerous experiments, to satisfy herself with common appearances, and to light up her apartments rather with myrtle than the torch of truth. Wow. Another letter. A modest young man sends his service to the author of the Rambler, and will be very willing to assist him in his work, but is sadly afraid of being discouraged by having his first essay rejected, a disgrace he has woefully experienced in every offer he has made of it to every new writer of every new paper. But he comforts himself by thinking, without vanity, that this has been from a peculiar favor of the Muses, who saved his performance from being buried in trash and reserved it to appear with luster in the Rambler. My goodness, times never change. Johnson continues, I am equally a friend to modesty and enterprise, and therefore shall think it an honor to correspond with a young man who possesses both in so eminent a degree. Youth is, indeed, the time in which these qualities ought chiefly to be found. Modesty suits well with inexperience, and enterprise with health and vigor, and an extensive prospect of life. One of my predecessors has justly observed that though modesty has an amiable and winning appearance, it ought not to hinder the exertion of the active powers, but that a man should show under his blushes a latent resolution. This point of perfection, nice as it is, my correspondent seems to have attained. That he is modest, his own declaration may evince, and I think the latent resolution may be discovered in his letter by an acute observer. I will advise him, since he so well deserves my precepts, not to be discouraged, though the Rambler should prove equally envious or tasteless with the rest of this fraternity. If his paper is refused, the presses of England are open. Let him try the judgment of the public. If, as it has sometimes happened in general combinations against merit, he cannot persuade the world to buy his works, he may present them to his friends, and if his friends are seized with the epidemical infatuation and cannot find his genius, or will not confess it, let him then refer his cause to posterity, and reserve his labors for a wiser age. Thus have I dispatched some of my correspondence in the usual manner with fair words and general civility. But to Flirtilla, the gay Flirtilla, what shall I reply? Unable as I am to fly at her command over lands and seas, or to supply her from week to week with the fashions of Paris or the intrigues of Madrid, I am yet not willing to incur her further displeasure, and would save my papers from her monkey or on any reasonable terms. But what propitiation, therefore, may I atone? By what propitiation, therefore, may I atone for my former gravity and open, without trembling, the future letters of this sprightly persecutor? To write in defense of masquerades is no easy task, yet something difficult and daring may well be required, as the price of so important an approbation. I therefore consulted, in this great emergency, a man of high reputation in gay life, who, having added to his other accomplishments no mean proficiency in the minute philosophy, after the 5th perusal of her letter, broke out with rapture into these words. Here's the quote from the gentleman. And can you, Mr. Rambler, stand out against this charming creature? Let her know, at least, that from this moment Negrinus devotes his life and his labors to her service. Is there any stubborn prejudice of education that stands between thee and the most amiable of mankind? Behold, Flirtilla, at thy feet, a man grown gray in the study of those noble arts by which right and wrong may be confounded, by which reason may be blinded, when we have a mind to escape from her inspection, and caprice and appetite, instated in uncontrolled command and boundless dominion. Such a casuist may surely engage with certainty of success in vindication of an entertainment which in an instant gives confidence to the timorous, and kindness kindles ardor in the cold, an entertainment where the vigilance of jealousy less has so often been eluded, and the virgin is set free from the necessity of languishing in silence, where all the outworks of chastity are at once demolished, where the heart is laid open without a blush, where bashfulness may survive virtue, and no wish is crushed under the frown of modesty. Far weaker influence than flirtellas might gain over an advocate for such amusements. It was declared by Pompey that if the commonwealth was violated, he could stamp with his foot and raise an army out of the ground. If the rights of pleasure are again invaded, but let Flutera crack her fan, neither pens nor swords shall be wanting at the summons. The wit and the colonel shall march out at her command, and neither law nor reason shall stand before us. And a footnote. The 4 billets in this paper were written by Miss Mulso, afterwards Mrs. Champon, who survived this work for more than half a century, and died December 25th, 1801. See an account of her in the preface to The Adventurer, British Essayists, Volume 23. What an interesting way to handle an author's correspondence.